Hi guys, are you thrilled for the next chapter? Let's go back straightly. It's chapter 5, a surprising story. Nancy froze behind the wheel. Had she inadvertently hit someone? Her heart pounding in fright, she opened the car door to step out. At the same instant, a shady figure arose from a pile of hay near her. I guess I must have scared you, silly, when I screamed, said a girl of Nancy's age, stepping forward. You're all right? Nancy gasped. Yes, and I'm sorry I yelled. I came out here to check out on our supplies of feed for the chicken. I didn't think it was going to be a bad storm, so I didn't bother to go back to the house. It's pretty bad, said Nancy. Well, the storm terrified me, the girl continued. I didn't even hear your car coming, and when it rushed in here, I panicked. Nancy began to breathe normally again, then told the stranger her name and the fact that she mechanism for raising the top of the convertible was not working. That's a shame, said the girl, and you must have get your clothes dried. The storm is letting up. Let's dash over to the house. Grace will help you too. She's my sister. My name's Alison Hoover. Hoover? Nancy was tempted to tell Alison that she had been planning to call, but she decided not to mention it at the moment. It might be better to do her slitting more sparkly. Nancy smiled at Alison. Thanks a million, but first I would like to wipe out the car. Are there any rags around the barn? Alison produced several, and together the two girls mopped the water from the cushion and floor. By this time, the rain had stopped. As Nancy and Alison sloshed towards a series of puddles to the farmhouse, Nancy had a better chance to study a companion. She was tall, with reddish blonde hair and very fair skin. Her voice was musical, and she had an attractive, lilting laugh. The girls reached the rundown farmhouse and stamped the mud from their shoes on the back porch. Then Alison flung open the door and they entered a cheerful kitchen. As the door shut behind them, another girl who was just closing the oven of an old-fashioned range turned towards them in surprise. Grace, I brought a visitor, Alison said quickly. Nancy, I want you to meet my sister. She's the mainstay of a family of two. Grace Hoover cordially acknowledged the introduction and greeted Nancy with a warm smile. Nancy judged her to be at least 4 years older than Alison. Her face was rather serious, and it was evident from the manner that responsibility has fallen on her shoulders at an early age. Nancy was attracted to both girls and responded to a friendly welcome. She put on a robe which Alison bought her, and Grace hung her wet clothes near the range. Presently, Grace pulled an ironing board from a closet with the intention of pressing Nancy's garments, but Nancy would not hear of this and began to iron them herself. This is fun, she said to the sisters. I don't know what I would have done without you girls. It's great for us, Alison spoke up. We don't have much company. To tell you the truth, we can't afford it. Grace stepped to the stove, removed a golden brown cake from the oven, and set it to the table to cool. But today we are not talking about money. It's Alison's birthday, and this is a birthday cake. Nancy, if you are not in too much of a hurry, I wish you would like to join in a little celebration. Why, I would love to do, Nancy said. Grace cake are yummy, Alison declared. I'm not much of a cook myself. My department is taking care of the barn and the chickens. Soon Nancy finished pressing her clothes and put them back on. Meanwhile, the cake had cooled and Grace started to spread the chocolate frosting. Suppose you two go into the living room and wait, she suggested. I'll bring in the cake and tea. Nancy followed Alison to the adjoining room. Although it was comfortable, the room did not contain much furniture. The floor has been painted and was scantily covered with handmade rag rugs. With the exception of an old-fashioned sofa, an inexpensive table, a few straight-backed chairs and an oiled stove with furnished heat in cold weather, there was a little ease in the room. However, Dantley's white curtain covered the window, and Nancy realized that although the Hoovers were poor, they had tried hard to make their home attractive. Do you two girls live here alone all the time? Nancy inquired. Alison nodded. Grace and I have been living here since father died. That was 2 years ago. Mother passed away just before that, the girl added with a slight catch in her voice. Their illness took every penny we had. I'm terribly sorry, Nancy remarked it sympathetically. It must be dreadful hard for two girls to run the farm by themselves. Our farm isn't as large as it once was, Alison said quietly. We have only a few acres left. I know you are too polite to ask how we manage, Nancy. Grace helped a dressmaker at Mansoville whenever she can get work. She makes all her own clothes and mines too, and I raise chickens. From just beyond the doorway suddenly came the strange of Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday! By this time Nancy has joined in. She and Grace finished day to you. Happy birthday, dear Allison. Happy birthday to you. Grace set the cake with 18 lighted candles on the table. She and Nancy sang the second verse with the words, May you have many more. Tears stood in Allison's eyes. When the song ended, she gasped her sister in a tremendous hug. Then she gave Nancy one. This is the nicest birthday I had in my years, she quavered, and it's one of the most enjoyable I've ever attended, Nancy said sincerely. Suddenly, Allison began to sing a tune full of old English ballad about the birthday of a village lass. Nancy listened entranced to Allison's clear, bell-like tones when she finished. Nancy applauded, then said, That was pretty lovely. You have a beautiful voice, Allison. The singer laughed gaily. Thank you, Nancy. I've always wanted to take lessons, but as you know, voice training is pretty expensive. At that moment, Grace brought in a tray of fragrant tea. As she poured 3 cups, Allison blew out the candles and served the cake. I would never tasted anything more delicious in all my life, Nancy said enthusiastically. The 3 girls chatted like old friends. Finally, the sun broke through the clouds. As Nancy rose to leave, she noticed an unusual picture on the wall opposite her and commented on its beauty. Uncle Joshua Crowley gave it to us, Allison told her. If he were only alive now, things would be different. At the mention of the name, Nancy sat down again. Was she going to pick up a clue to the possibility that Mr. Crowley had made a later will? He wasn't nearly our uncle, Grace explained, but we loved him as much though he were a relative. Her voice broke, and for a moment she could not go on. Then, gaining control of herself, she continued. He lived on the farm next to us, that were when mother and father were alive. All of Allison's and mine misfortunes seemed to come at once. He was the dearest man you ever saw, Allison added. Some people thought his cute, but you never minded his peculiar ways after you knew him. Uncle Joshua was very good to us. He always told me that he would back me in a singing career. Yes, Grace added. Uncle Joshua used to say Allison sang as sweetly as a bird, and he wanted to pay for lessons with a famous teacher. But after he went to live with the Tophams, he never said any more about it. He never liked it with the Tophams, thought Allison declared. Then weren't kind of him, and he used to slip away to visit us. Uncle Joshua often said that he seemed like his own children. Grace spoke up. He bought us many nice gifts, but we loved him for himself and not his money. I remember though, the very last day we saw him alive, he told us, I have planned a big surprise to make you girls happy, but I can't tell you now what it is. You'll see it in my will. Those were his very words. And then the Tophams got everything, Allison said. He must have changed his mind for some reason. It's hard to believe he would have forgot his promise to us, Grace said sadly. Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if a later will could be found? Allison exclaimed. Yes, Nancy replied slowly. I've heard that Mr. Crawley told other people he was leaving money to them. The Turner sisters, for instance. Do you know them? Slightly, Grace answered. My dad, Nancy went on, is a lawyer, and he and I are very much interested in this case. He even mentioned you girls, and to tell the truth, I was on my way here to talk to you. Allison impulsively grasped Nancy's arm. You say your father is a lawyer? Grace and I are positive Uncle Joshua made a later will, or if we could only encourage your father to help us prove this. Then a sad look came over her face. But I'm forgetting we wouldn't have any money to pay him if we should lose the case. Don't let that worry you, said Nancy kindly. This is your birthday and you must be happy, Allison. My special wish for you is that before you are 1 year older, you'll inherit some of the Crawley's money so that you can take those singing lessons. Wow, this chapter was really good. Stay tuned for the next chapter. Have a happy day.